In the summer of 1845, two proud ships of the Royal Navy, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, slipped their moorings and sailed into history. Their mission was clear: to chart the last unbroken stretch of the Northwest Passage, the fabled sea route linking the Atlantic and Pacific. For Britain, it was a quest for empire and prestige, the final blank space on the map. For the 129 men aboard, it was a chance at glory, discovery, and immortality. The expedition was led by Sir John Franklin, a veteran explorer who had faced the Arctic before, a man in his 60s determined to succeed where so many had failed. Outfitted with the best technology of the age, the ships carried 3 years of provisions, steam engines, and reinforced hulls for the ice. Overall command of the expedition fell to Sir John Franklin, an experienced officer of the Royal Navy and a veteran explorer of the Arctic. He had once mapped the northern coast of Canada and survived a disastrous earlier journey where starvation forced his men to eat their leather boots. To the British public, he was a hero, determined, steadfast, and unbroken. To his men, he was the old man, 60 years of age, yet filled with quiet conviction that this voyage would be his redemption. Under his command were two ships. HMS Terror, a Vesuvius-class bomb vessel built in 1813, had seen fierce action during the War of 1812, bombarding American forts at Fort McHenry and Stonington. Later, she braved Antarctic seas under James Clark Ross, proving her strength in ice. Rebuilt and reinforced for Arctic exploration, she was captained by Francis Crozier, an Irish officer known for his calm discipline, navigation skill, and quiet courage. Her companion ship, HMS Erebus, a Hecla-class bomb vessel launched in 1826, had sailed with Ross to Antarctica, discovering the volcano that bears her name. Now refitted with steam engines and iron hull plating, she sailed under James Fitzjames, young, ambitious, and fiercely loyal to Franklin to the very end. The expedition made steady progress north across the Atlantic and into Baffin Bay, the gateway to the Arctic. In July 1845, the ships anchored at the Whalefish Islands off the coast of Greenland, where the men took on fresh meat and supplies. They wrote their final letters home, cheerful, confident, and full of pride in the voyage ahead. Some mentioned that Franklin had banned swearing and drunkenness aboard ship, a strict but steady hand guiding his men into the unknown. That summer passed in calm waters, but the following winter of 1845 was spent locked in ice off Beechy Island. There the crews built snow walls for shelter, held divine service, and waited for the thaw. 3 of the men died during that long frozen darkness, their graves marked neatly beside the camp. When the ice finally released them in 1846, the expedition pressed south through Peel Sound, seeking the final link of the Northwest Passage. But in September of that year, the ice closed in once more. Both HMS Erebus and HMS Terror became trapped off the coast of King William Island. There, surrounded by endless fields of ice and silence, the two proud ships that had once carried such hope would never sail again. Trapped fast in the ice off King William Island, the men of the Franklin expedition faced a second Arctic winter with dwindling hope. By now, their rations, once a point of pride for the Admiralty, had become their enemy. The newly tinned food, supplied in haste by a London contractor, was sealed with impure lead solder. Over months, the poison leached into the contents, contaminating the very provisions meant to sustain them. Meat turned metallic, soup thickened with a bitter taste, and sickness spread quietly through both crews. In the spring of 1847, Sir John Franklin himself died aboard HMS Erebus. Command passed to Captain Crozier, still trapped by the ice and with no relief in sight. Crozier made the only decision left: to abandon the ships and march south overland toward the Back River and possible rescue. The survivors hauled heavy sledges loaded with boats and supplies across the jagged ice, their strength fading with each step. Temperatures plunged, frostbite claimed fingers, and starvation gnawed at them as they stumbled onward into the desolation. On King William Island, they built a final encampment, the frozen tents and scattered bones that later searchers would find, mute witnesses to courage, suffering, and endurance. None of the 129 men of the Franklin expedition would return. In the years that followed the Franklin expedition's silence, Britain refused to give up hope. Between 1848 and 1859, more than 30 search missions scoured the Arctic, by sea, by sledge, and even by balloon, seeking any sign of the missing men. Among the first was Sir James Clark Ross, who found only the frozen traces of winter camps and empty horizons. Lady Jane Franklin, refusing to accept her husband's fate, funded her own expeditions, sending ships farther north than any before. Inuit hunters told stories of ghostly ships trapped in the ice and pale men struggling south with sledges, accounts dismissed at the time, yet hauntingly accurate. Gradually, fragments emerged, a fork with Franklin's initials, scraps of clothing, and a single message found in a stone cairn describing the abandonment of the ships. But the full story of what had happened, and where the ships had gone, remained lost beneath the ice, giving birth to one of the greatest maritime mysteries of all time. For more than a century and a half, the fate of the Franklin expedition remained one of history's great mysteries. Generations of explorers and scholars searched the Arctic, guided only by fragments, legends, and Inuit stories passed down through time. Then, in 2014, the wreck of HMS Erebus was discovered, perfectly preserved beneath the icy waters of Queen Maud Gulf. 2 years later, HMS Terror was found resting intact on the seabed, as if waiting for her crew to return. At last, the silence had spoken. The ships that once carried such hope were found where courage met tragedy, a reminder of how far humanity will go in pursuit of discovery. In the end, the Franklin expedition became more than a story of loss. It became a mirror of human nature. Courage carried them into the unknown. Hubris blinded them to its cost, and curiosity ensured they would never be forgotten. In the frozen silence of the Arctic, their story still whispers, a testament to how far we will go to understand our world. If you enjoyed this story, then please leave a like and subscribe for more stories like this. Thanks for watching.